Peace and love, family. It's your girl, Morgan Renee Myers, tuning in for another reading of Feeding the Soul, because that's my business, by Tabitha Brown. We are at chapter 27 and 28, and I'm going to get right into it. So chapter 27 is entitled, You're All Right. And it starts off with a quote by Ruby D that reads, "The kind of beauty I want most is the hard-to-get kind that comes from within. Strength, courage, dignity." Feeding the Soul by Tabitha Brown. We all change. Do you hear me? We all look different than we used to, whether that's better or, in our minds, worse. It doesn't mean our souls, who we are on the inside, are any better or worse. It's simply a change in appearance. Too many of us, when we hear phrases like forever young, we think our bodies are supposed to feel the way they felt 20 or 30 years ago. But when I think about that statement, I think of our spiritual selves. Our spirits can always feel forever young and vibrant, but our bodies were created to age and grow. As we get older, new pains will come. Sometimes we don't have to do anything but get up out the bed and we're saying, "Lord Jesus, my leg is hurting." That's been me many times. We have these steps in our new home and my legs are like, "Ooh, girl, you going up and down stairs now? This is what we're doing now?" But even when we feel those little aches and pains, let's try to use them as a reminder that we are alive, that we are growing. I learned a thing or two about this from the elderly patients at the assisted living home I worked at years ago. There was this one woman, Miriam, who was celebrating her 96th birthday. I jokingly said, "Honey, how old are you, 25? She said to me, "I'm 96. "What? You're 96? There ain't no way, girl. You look about 30 years old. I'm joking around with her, thinking I'm making her feel good. Honey, guess what she said? "You know what? I'm excited about being 96 because that means I got old. And if you don't get old, that means you must have died young." Baby, that thing hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, "Wait a minute now, Miriam. You're preaching, girl." I was so overwhelmed. All I could think about was my mother, who died at 51. By the time she passed away, she couldn't move anything in her body other than her eyes and a little bit of her lips. She was completely bedridden and paralyzed because of ALS. All my mama wanted to do was to be able to move and get up out that bed. She died feeling every change in her body. She died young. So when Miriam said that, it was a wake-up call. I decided to embrace every single change and every single year I'm given. I don't want to be the same as I was at 21. That Tab didn't know what Tab knows now. I was taking diet pills at 21. The box suggested taking 2 a day. Well, I would take 4 or 6 to try to speed up the process. Same thing with laxatives. 21-year-old to 31-year-old Tab was weighing herself a million times a day. In my 40s now, I have more knowledge. I'm wiser and smarter now. My mind is sharper. My heart is kinder. I'm more loving to myself. I'm more patient now. Honey, I am grateful for the little extra cushion on my body, too. Got me a couple of extra curves, and I ain't mad about them. But I'm a grown woman, and I know I'm enough just as I am. Bottom line, I've grown. And I suspect that as I get older, God willing, I'll grow even more. I prefer all of that over any thin or so-called perfect body any day. Yes, I work out. I try my best to be healthy and look good in my clothes. But my intention is always to better myself inside and out. Baby, I know what it is to gain weight and get sick and have to wrestle with my change in appearance. Your face looks different. Maybe your body is different. It doesn't feel the same. Maybe you don't feel as pretty or as handsome as you once felt. But honey, you are still you. This body is nothing but a shell. Our flesh is not the same as our spirit. Yes, there may be some things that link the two. Sometimes the state of our spirits is reflected in our bodies, but the way you deal with that kind of change is not to wallow in the outer changes. Focus on the inner work you have to do, because when that is beautiful, it doesn't matter much what happens on the outside. In fact, the outside will probably go the way of the inside, okay? Excuse me. Oh, live alkaline water break. Excuse me. Black on water from black on land. Might as well get it from the black man or woman. All right, so it says, it doesn't matter much what happens on the outside. In fact, the outside will probably go the way of the inside, okay? Yes, you might be going through some things that have changed your physical body drastically. Maybe illness has your body not functioning at its best. Lord knows I know how that feels. But be mindful to not allow the state of your body to impact the state of your spirit. Shore up your mind, strengthen your spirit in whatever ways are best for you. Stay mentally and spiritually sound, because the moment you allow the way your body feels to influence how your mind and heart feel, you've lost. My mom taught me that when she was first diagnosed, they gave her 6 to 8 months to live. She lived for 3 years because although her body was failing her, she never believed in her sickness. She would always think positive, and when the doctors would say one thing, she would remind us that God had the final say, and he hadn't told her what the doctor was saying about the time she had left. However, I've been on the other end of that mind versus body fight, and for a while I was losing. I've dealt with depression and had major anxiety attacks. I've been on medication, steroids in particular, that caused me to gain weight and feel terrible. I didn't want to get out of the bed. In fact, I looked for any reason just to sleep. So I get it. It's hard to navigate a tough season of physical and mental pain. But honey, I believe your situation is temporary, even if it's not physically short-lived. You can strengthen how your mind and soul process what you're going through. You are worthy, period. No matter what. And the more you understand how worthy you are, the more likely you'll find your strength again. You got to believe that. Say this to yourself. This is temporary. I'm going to get through this. This is temporary. I'm going to get through this. Let me move some stuff back here so I can get my lighting together. Excuse me, y'all. Thought I had it together so I hopped on. But it's just looking a little dim. All right. This is temporary. All right. Here we go. This is temporary. I'm going to get through this. Fight against those feelings of wanting to give up, of not being worthy, of feeling better. Don't lie down. Rest, but then get up on the days you can and fight for what you deserve. Honey, you are worthy of feeling better, doing better, and being better. Keep working on your mind and your heart. I don't care what the outside looks like. You are beautiful. Once you find your inner peace and beauty, you'll never let yourself go. Even if it feels like your body is failing you, focus on what is true on the inside. Be present, and everything else, honey, will pass. One day you will look in the mirror and say, oh, I'm all right. That's the goal, honey, to look in the mirror and be okay with whatever you see looking back. Continue to work on yourself. Do as much as you can. Get up and do something amazing for you. Maybe try something you've never done before. But don't let your situation now determine how you will live your life forever. Let's embrace all our new journeys. Let's not focus on what we used to be, but who we are right now and can be in the future. Change is good. Matter of fact, change is a great thing. So let's embrace the changes, good and bad, our bodies go through. Let's embrace all our feelings, the life we live and our current situations. We're supposed to change. We are forever changing, evolving, and that's okay. Change means we're still growing and we're allowed to do so. Very good. All right, so that was chapter 27 called You're All Right. Now we're moving on to chapter 28, which is entitled Permanent Lessons from Your Temporary Season. Starts off with a quote by Napoleon Hill that reads, opportunity often comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. I've had so many different jobs in my life, and I've always believed that we are often put in a place for a reason, even if we are only there for a season. For me, it's usually in hindsight when I look back at jobs I've had and realize, oh, that's why I was there. For 5 years, I worked for a company called APAC, which served as a call center for UPS customer service. At a very young age, barely 21, I became a supervisor in charge of about 50 people, all of whom were older than me. Some were even my parents' age. That position taught me how to stand in my power. Of course, at the time, I did not realize that it was building me. I was just doing my work and making sure I did it well. I enjoyed my job because I loved helping and guiding people. Now I realize that this position taught me that every person has a story. I used to do one-on-one sessions with the employees I was responsible for supervising. If someone called in their shift, I'd have to sit down and talk with them, sometimes even write them up. But in the process, they give their reasons for why they called in. Many times, people were going through things, and I think that job helped teach me empathy. Of course, I didn't believe everything I was told because I knew that not everybody was always telling the truth. But there were times when I really had to ask myself, what if it was me? What if my child was sick? Or what if my mother or father, or what if it was my mother or father who was sick? Because life was happening to these people just as it was happening to me. Yes, the corporate rules were very strict, but I was also in charge. So I learned that sometimes it's okay to give a little bit. That job was my intro class in learning how to practice patience and understanding with people, something I do today. A more practical lesson I learned from working for UPS was the ins and outs of shipping. Not much has changed since my days there. I know how to run the logistics sides of my business because I work there. I know how to make sure I get things shipped out in a timely manner. I know how to pack and measure. I know how to make custom slips and ship international. The call center supervisor job also served as a stepping stone. The training and experience I already had helped me get the 9-to-5 jobs I needed when I arrived in LA. Back when I was 20, I remember complaining that the training was so hard. Oh my God, this is too much, I'd say. Honey, me and my husband, who also worked there, would call it boot camp. But we now say, you know what? That job prepared us for every other job we've ever had, simply because it was so hard. It was so thorough. You had to cross every T and dot every I. I really appreciated every job that came after it because with each new opportunity, I realized just how much that training had prepared me. That said, there were certainly times when I would feel stuck and think, is this going to be my whole life? Am I going to be here forever? But I am so grateful that God had my ear. He told me this is not the life I have planned for you. He told me this is not the life I planned for you. I'd been working. I still intended to return to LA to my dream, but Chance was concerned that we needed more money. This is not the life I planned for you. I walked into my job at APAC not too long after talking to Chance about moving back to LA, and they had begun laying people off. Many of the new customer service reps, and even some who'd been there for a long time and were making more money, were being laid off. Because I'd taken the time to get to know them and their stories, I knew they needed their jobs. For many of them, this was going to be their lives, and that was okay. They were going to stay there for as long as they could. Some could even retire from there, but that wasn't my story. I knew it was a temporary season for me. So one morning I told my husband, I'm going to go in there and volunteer to be laid off so that I can spare 2 of my reps. I make double what they make, so that means 2 of them can keep their job. Honey, I walked down the hallway that morning and felt like I was floating. I was so excited because I knew I was going to take a leap. I knew that my decision was going to start something new inside of me. I felt a confirmation in my spirit that day and knew that nothing could stop me. Chance was on board, and I was feeling like it's going down today. And that's exactly what I did. I went to Human Resources and said, listen, I will take a layoff, but please keep 2 of my reps you were going to lay off. Let them keep their jobs. They said yes and gave me a severance package. That same severance package was the money that helped us move to LA in 2004. This is not the life I planned for you. Years later, I was a certified nursing assistant at the assisted living home in Palmdale, California. I worked the night shift, and there were so many nights that I cried. I would go in the bathroom and just look at myself in the mirror and say, girl, what are you doing? How did we get here? But once again, I had to remind myself that it was temporary. God had put something in my spirit, in my heart, mind, and dreams. That job was simply going to pay us in the meantime. At the time, I didn't know how long I was going to be doing it, but I trusted that there was something else waiting for me. I knew what God told me. These jobs were part of the plan, but they weren't the plan. Greater was coming. I think we all have to do that. We have to constantly remind ourselves of our dreams. When we're not living in our purpose, we have to remind ourselves that the situation we're in has to be temporary because our dreams are real. They are possible. The desires of my heart will come to pass because God has a plan for me. We have to keep telling ourselves that we are going to get through it. We have to keep going. I know how it feels to be stuck. It's uncomfortable. But there's also a discomfort that comes when God has been trying to move you and you won't move. He'll make you uncomfortable until you get forced to move. He did that to me many times as well. Don't wait until things get so bad that God has to make you so uncomfortable just to push you out of your comfort zone. Take those steps yourself. Be ready to take your leaps of faith. Trust yourself. Trust that gut, that feeling deep down on the inside. It's there. That's our gift. And remember, wherever you are, It's only temporary. All right, so she ends the chapter with a vegan fish stick recipe. Remember when we were kids and fish sticks were everything? Not only do fish sticks take me back to my childhood, they're also one of my husband's favorite things. When I figured out I could use hearts of palm to make a vegan fish stick, baby, the inner child in me said, "Oh God, we thank you. Let's make some." So a little bit of fish fries or seafood bread and mix, some chickpea, garbanzo bean, flour, although any flour would do, Old Bay seasoning, dill, fresh or dried, a multi-spice seasoning blend. McCormick makes a salt-free one I really love with garlic, onion, paprika, black pepper, celery, and turmeric powder. A little furikake is what's going to give you that fish flavor, or I'll add kelp flakes. Same thing. Some non-dairy milk. Tab loves unsweetened cashew milk. I prefer almond. A can of hearts of palm. Get the whole kind, or the one sliced lengthwise to try to avoid the salad cut version. And grapeseed oil for frying. For the tartar sauce, you can have vegan mayo, dill, a little or a lot, fresh or not. That's your business. Garlic powder, sweet relish, and chili paste. So we're going to make 2 mixtures, one wet and one dry. To create the dry mixture in a bowl, add 1.5 cups fish fry, 1.5 cups chickpea flour, Old Bay, a sprinkle of dill, the seasoning blend, and the furikake or the kelp flakes. To create your wet mixture, you put half the dry mix in a separate bowl. Add the milk, enough to make it thick but not lumpy. If it's too thin, use a little extra and stir it until the batter is smooth. Pour some oil into a frying pan, enough that it'll mostly cover the hearts of palm once you added them. And be sure the pan is tall enough that the oil can't escape. Heat the oil to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, who knows what that is when it's on the stove? I don't know the degrees when it's on the stove top. I know the oven. Come on, Tab. Just say medium or high. Now, usually hearts of palm come in thick, long pieces. We're going to rinse those off and dip them directly into the wet mix. Keep your dry mix close by because you'll need it soon. Roll the hearts of palm around really good in the wet mix so that they're completely coated. Then dip your hearts of palm in your dry mix, okay? If you want to do a double coat, wet again, dry again, go right on ahead. That's your business, but you don't have to. Once the hearts of palm are completely coated, drop them into the oil, hot oil to fry, and if they aren't covered in the oil, turn them as they cook until all sides are golden brown. Turn gently so as not to disturb the delicious crust. Then you take them out, put them on a paper towel, and let them drain a little bit. This is comfort food, okay? Fried fish sticks. Thank you, God. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot. I can't forget the tartar sauce. Grab you some vegan mayo, some dill, and some garlic powder. Mix that together, and then add some sweet relish. And if you like a little kick, a little chili paste. Mix it together, and now you have your tartar. All right, so that was the end of chapter 27 and 28. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I'll be back with 29 and 30 sometime soon. All right, peace. Y'all have a great rest of your day.